Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be going over all of my favorite Christmas ornament patterns for crochet. So a lot of these may not originally have been ornaments, but I have made them into ornaments by just using simple crochet patterns and just by adding a hook or adding my own crochet little loop. I have turned them into ornaments just from all those different things. So we'll go through all of the different projects that I have made, and anything in this video and it just catches your eye, I have all of these ornaments in my shop while supplies last. So if you're wanting any of these, go ahead and check out, linked in the description down below. I do have a lot of them kind of grouped together according to categories because it is very difficult to sell one ornament at a time because of cost and shipping. So if you find that there's something that you would prefer, just message me on Mercari and I can maybe tweak some things around if you're wanting specific ornaments. So we'll start ahead with our free patterns, and then towards the end of the video I will be having ones that you'll have to purchase. There'll be 2 books, so there'll be a lot of additional patterns that you can get that way as well. That will be in affiliated links in my description as well, so definitely check that out. So we'll get started with our first pattern. These are, I like to call them flat peppermints because they kind of like coasters. You could even use them for coasters if you don't want to make an ornament. You just don't have to add the little loop. But this pattern is by Yarnspirations. When you click on that link, it'll take you to their website, and it may look like you're purchasing, but that's just them trying to get you to buy their yarn, which you're more than welcome to. But they will have a specific link specifically for the pattern, and it even says it's free and you can download it and it will give you a PDF. So don't get too confused. This is a free pattern. They just trick you there a little bit. This one, I remember being fairly simple. You will have to do color changing, as you can see, we just switch between. But I can kind of tell with mine, you just weave it through. So if you remember or would like to have a brief reminder, I have a color changing video on how to do and switch between colors. It might be something that can be helpful. If you want to know what kind of stitching that is used for this, you use half double crochet, working in the magic green, there'll be some slip stitching, and working in the round, and like I said, color changing. Good practice if you're wanting to get your color changing in, because it's not like in my video where it was straight lines. You're kind of working in a curved, but as long as you know how to work in the round and you know how to color change, it's not as tricky as it looks. Don't worry about that. But it's a good practice and great for this time of year. So our next ones are Snowmen here. I really enjoy making these because it involved a bunch of different techniques and just different things just with crocheting. Got my safety eyes, and then you can use some buttons on here. But this pattern comes from Loops and Love Crochet, and you'll be making 2 panels. So there's 2 parts that'll look like the snowman part, and then you'll single crochet around to attach it and stuff it. Not too tricky if you're, a beginner. I think you're using a lot of increase and decreasing, and you'll use working in the round here for the ear muffs. But everything else for a beginner should be pretty simple when it comes to just, you're working just back and forth, increasing and decreasing as you get to the little curves and stuff. But these turned out much bigger than I thought they would, but that might have been on me because everything I make when I crochet always ends up much bigger. I think they turned out really cute. They're a little on the bigger side for ornaments if you like bigger ornaments, or you can try using smaller hook or yarn. So keep that in mind when you're making these, but I mean, you can see my hand here. They're bigger than my hand. But I think they're cute either way. You don't even have to make them into an ornament if you don't want to. These actually could make cute little plushies as well, just on the beginner level. And we have our little s'more ornament. I don't believe it was an ornament from the pattern I got it from. This one, the pattern credit goes to Whistle and Ivy. And if you look at her picture for the pattern, her marshmallow probably looks a little different. I think hers is a little more mushed because I added, for this part, you just single crochet around. however many rows. I think she only has you do a few. I did maybe 1 or 2 extra rows, maybe 3, so that I just wanted to have a face on my marshmallow. I wanted to have a little bit more volume and stuff going on. Probably one of my favorite s'more patterns that I have followed, because I've made a couple other ones and I didn't like one of those, but this one I thought was really cute. You make each piece separately and then you sew them together. I cheat a little bit with my crochet ornaments just because I know the likelihood of them being played around with is not very common. I mean, unlike my plushies where, you know, kids are going to be yanking and pulling on them, whereas if it's hung up, I don't expect much to be happening to them. So I will actually hot glue some of my things together because I think it looks a lot nicer when you have everything together. Because sometimes when you sew things together, it tugs everything and it looks weird. And I know some people get upset when you hot glue things, but I do that with ornaments and a few plushie items. Yes, I hot glue, guys. Come at me if that really bothers you. But it seems to work better, in my opinion, when it comes to stuff like this, just when you want it to hold together. And I use the Gorilla Glue hot glue because it's a lot sturdier and stronger. So, but I think it works fine and it's working for me, so I'm going to keep doing it. Just make sure that if you do that with the hot glue, make sure it is never going to be washed or put in the dryer because it will probably melt and your things might come apart. So, but I usually state that in my shop for people that are buying them. So keep that in mind if you're planning on selling these or making them for other people. They should not be washed because that might cause problems. We have what I call my 3D peppermint just to differentiate from my flat ones and my coaster ones, because in my shop it just helps me keep track of it better. But it's more 3D. And you do the color changing as well in this. This pattern credit goes to, I'm going to probably butcher the name, but I'm going to just say their small business name. And it's One Dog Wolf. Similar with that color changing, but this is more in a 3D form. I did love this one a lot better when I finished it than my flat peppermint ones. I guess just because this one actually looks like the candy, and I don't know, got me more excited when I finished this one than the other ones. Not that the other ones aren't good. I think this one is just more exciting, especially if you're putting it on your tree. And it has a little face on it and all that. And if you're wanting, I'm going to link her video because I believe she has a tutorial. Also on her blog, she has the pattern. So I'll link both of those if you're wanting to do both or follow along with both. So this is a fun way to get that color changing in too. And we got our taco here. Fun little taco. Pattern credit goes to A Crafty Guild by Rhea. And hers was actually a much smaller taco. I think she had one like much smaller, where it was like a mini one. And so I made it slightly bigger, but I'll try and have my modifications because I've done this taco quite a few times in different sizes. So I'll see if I can find specifically the size that I did for this one, or at least give you some guidelines of what I did do so that you guys can modify as well. I did hot glue this one together as well because that's what she actually tells you to do in the pattern. So it works a lot better. I have tried sewing it and you get your green and your weird stuff popping through and it just doesn't look as good. So you can try, but I've not had a whole lot of success with trying to sew all my yarn together with doing things quite like this. But you're welcome to give it a shot. But hot glue will work fine. You just have to really hold everything together and kind of be careful because you can see it in some of my cases here where you see my different ornaments. But I think it holds up a lot better, personally. Next up we have our Starfish. And this pattern credit goes to Spin a Yarn Crochet. So I believe when you make this, you just kind of work each one of these. So you work in the round and kind of make your little points. And I think you attach them all together and work it that way. So the pattern pattern showed all how to do all of that. And I think it wasn't originally an ornament, I just made it. As you see with a lot of these, I just attach my little thread through. And you can even just take a regular ornament hook. You just have to be careful when you're storing them, because if you're doing a whole bunch, if you happen to have a whole bunch of crochet ones, or even just having this one, just be mindful of the hook, because it will catch on your crochet item. That's why I don't typically make mine like this when I sell them, because storing them and everything and then worrying about shipping them out. So, and it's a lot easier because I can have the yarn match as well. But you could easily, because the hooks are so cheap, especially if you get them at the end of the holidays. I think one time I got a whole pack of them for like 25 or 75 cents. So if you can catch them at the end of the year and you want to do a bunch of ornaments and do them that way, there's nothing wrong with it. Just keep in mind that it can catch on your yarn and can fray it, and it won't look as nice. But I just do the yarn. So you're more than welcome to do that too. Or if you think of anything other than using those, I'm sure there's lots of options you can come up with. So, but my fun little starfish, it kind of makes me think of the starfish and Finding Nemo a little bit when I made this one. With the little sparklies and purplies. Keeping with our little ocean theme, I did a jellyfish too. And this pattern credit goes to, I'm going to probably say this name wrong, Kylie at A Friendly Red Fox. So I believe hers was also just the jellyfish, and I turned it into this. And typically when I do this, I try to find a moment, like you'll be making this part first. So before you close this off, I usually will just kind of string my yarn, not all the way through, and so it'll have a little bit of a tail. And I can even do a tutorial. If you guys want me to do a tutorial on how I put these on, just comment it down below. I can do it in a more detailed way. But then I'll string it through, and then I'll poke it through this other way, and then I'll tie underneath, while it's underneath here, tie it on and secure it that way. If you happen to forget, there is a way that you can try and tie it while it's still assembled. I can show all that. Like I said, comment it down below if you want me to show how I add the little yarn hooks to my ornaments. I can totally make a tutorial on that if you guys are looking for inspiration on how to do that. You can do all fun things. You can do an entire ocean with ornaments. Next up, I got my mini stockings. They're not quite as mini, I think, as the pattern showed. Typical for me that things are never the same because I don't follow the hook sizes and yarn sizes. They're still decent, I think, for on a tree, and they're fun because this is where you could throw a candy cane in or some little candies or other. Whatever you want to do, guys, you could totally have fun with this. I love where there's so much you can do with a crochet item, and it's not just limited to one thing. But this pattern credit goes to Andrea Leek on Ravelry, so I'll have her pattern linked on there. It is free, and she does different colors. I just did Christmas colors for mine, red and green. You know, you could do any colors. I just was going Christmassy because not too many of mine had a Christmas vibe going, so I did some that were more Christmassy. I believe you end up just crocheting, and then you leave this open, and I think you attach like the green and work it and crochet it and all that. A little different of a pattern, but it's definitely fun if you're working on wanting to do different techniques. So definitely increasing and decreasing for sure here, and increasing. And I think these make really great gifts if you're wanting to make a bunch of stuff for people and throw little things in them. These are cute because they don't have to be an ornament either. I mean, you can still have the little loop, but they don't have to be an ornament. They're definitely good for little goodies as well. I got this little Santa hat. And the pattern credit goes to Repeat Crafter Me. So I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. I think this one was pretty simple. I think I ended up just taking a little bit of thread and sewing that down. You don't have to, but I think it always looks fun when the hat kind of dangles that way. I think I even took this hat, and if you remember my teddy bear pumpkin, if you guys have seen my Halloween, my teddy bear pumpkin, I think to make it more Christmassy, I crocheted this exact hat to put on him to make him a Santa one. So you could do a lot with this and not just make it an ornament. You can do all sorts of things, or put it on your decorations, or if you have things that need a Santa hat, you could do that too. So I'm missing parts of this one just because I'm all out right now, but this one is a gingerbread candy cane holder. I don't have any candy canes. I can show a picture because for my listing I had to show candy canes, so I can show that in here. But that was kind of fun. I thought that was a fun way to really, so you can have his little arms and then the legs of the candy cane. I think that was really cool. This is also Repeat Crafter Me. It's pretty basic pattern. I know you'll have to do a special technique to create the hole, but it's not as hard as it seems. Like, these types of things are not as bad as you think they will be. If you do find that you have some trouble, let me know, and I can try and help you guys in the comments. But it's fun, like I said, multifunction. Ornament and candy cane holder. Got really fun with going more rustic with this design, and I'm a huge fan of rustic, so you'll probably see that pop up a lot throughout this channel, me going crazy with getting in the rustic anything. So this pattern goes to MJ's Off the Hook Designs, and it's, I believe, a very simple pattern where it's actually not worked like this. You just crochet, you chain so many, and then you work so many stitches into one, and then it gives it that curl, and then you just attach it at the beginning. Like, it's so easy on how you could pop out so many of these and do so many different things with them. You can attach them to stuff. You could even, I'm gonna kind of spoil alert on one of my things coming up here. If you make these big enough, so you may have to modify her pattern, but you can make these big enough that you could put a picture in here if you really wanted to, or any picture, like a family picture or a picture of someone you care about or your pet. You can do all sorts of stuff, or you can just have pictures of what you want, manger scenes, Christmassy things. Oh, you can go so crazy with this. You just would have to figure out how much more you would need to chain to make it big enough around, but you'd have so much fun with that. I mean, I never even thought of that just until I started telling you guys about this pattern. But hopefully that was inspirational for something. Maybe you'll make something with that. I really love this one because it kind of goes with that rustic theme. The red truck hauling a Christmas tree. So this pattern goes to Maria at Maria's Blue Crown. And I believe you do this side of the truck and then this side of the truck. So you'll make 2 trucks and you end up, sewing it all together. And I believe you make 2 wheels as well, sew those together. And then you got the 1 tree that you'll sew in between. But I love the red trucks with the Christmas tree. So this was a very exciting one for me to make. And I didn't feel like it was too hard. Oh, I forgot. And you also have your window that you'll sew on too. But not too bad. Pretty basic stuff here. I know you've got some additional stuff you'll have to work with here, but these are my favorite patterns because I was able to follow them, and I wouldn't be sharing them with you guys if I couldn't follow them. So I'm sure you guys will be able to follow these fairly well. But yeah, fun little truck. If I could choose probably my most favorite ornament, it's probably this one. And it's not even an ornament, it's just a gingerbread man, but I turned him into an ornament, and it's probably my favorite, hands down. I love gingerbread anything. When it comes to decor and all that, like, this gets me so excited. So I'm probably going to make a whole bunch of these. I've already made this one, but I might make more this year. But I think it's just cute. It gives you that whole vibe that you need. And it's 2 panels. So you'll make one, and then you'll make the other one, and then sew them together all the way around. Add the little details. You'll have your little buttons and the magic ring. I think these are just what you work off of. I can't remember exactly how you do parts of this. I think you add the arms, actually. I think you make all this panel, and then you'll attach and work a little bit to do the arms. So not a whole lot of crazy techniques as far as I can tell. I think he's pretty cute. Can't help that. This pattern credit goes to Heather Corrine. Is it funny that I actually made ornaments? I had to do it. I felt like it was Just a classic to be able to do the actual ornament shapes. So I just did them in the traditional colors because I think I was trying to make sure I had a balance of Christmassy stuff too. So this pattern credit goes to Ashleah at Heart Hook Home. And these are, I feel like, pretty basic. You just work in the round, and it looks like I'm doing maybe half or double crochet. And then you do a different color up here. So not a whole lot of color changing really, because these are kind of separate with the color changing. Fairly simple. You can do them all sorts of colors. That'd be fun. This is great if you have kids or cats and you're worried about them breaking your ornaments. Like, these won't break. They may fray, but they won't break. So, and that's nice too. And you can even have it as just little things to add on to something. You could, as an idea that's literally on my mind right now, is if you like know how to cut out felt or add little tags that say like joy or peace, you know, fun little things onto them just to kind of add like wording. You could do stuff like that. Or if you're really good with like stitching or embroidery, you could do stuff like that on these. I don't do embroidery, so don't ask me to help with that. But if you happen to know how to do that and can do that on something like this, I think it would be really cool. But I just am plain, but I'm sure you could do all sorts of things to kind of spruce them up. Probably even add like, if you wanted to add like beads or something. There's really no limit. And you can make these bigger too. You can modify them to make them a little bit bigger than her pattern. Once you learn how to kind of work in the round, you can make them bigger than that and do more with them if you want to. We've got these trees. So these are a little different. I believe these are using, I can't remember if it's the puff stitch or the bobble stitch, but very similar to one of those. So it gives it kind of more texture than just a simple tree. So very fun with that, I think. This pattern credit goes to Dessert Blossom Crafts. I can't remember exactly how this pattern works. I know you work one and then you attach. It's kind of like that gingerbread where you attach the color, or like those ornaments as well where you can just attach the color. So not really any color changing with this. Do all sorts of colors with these and have a lot of fun having different themes or whatever your tree theme might be. And this you could even add, you know, beads too if you wanted to add little ornaments or something on it, or whatever other little things you want to add to give it a little bit more pop or decor. But I think these are fun, especially with the texture. Next up we have little paw print ornaments. I really like these because you can actually add a picture. Kind of like I was saying at the beginning with that other one, is that you could add a picture on the inside of this one of your pet, which I will show a picture of a little example with my dog. But this pattern credit goes to Simply Hooked by Janet. She has a YouTube tutorial I'll have linked down below, just because I know this one gave me a little bit of a tricky part with the little, you know, paw toes right there, because it can be a little confusing on how you do all this little part, but the video, I believe, is easy to follow, so you shouldn't struggle too much with that part, especially following along with her. But I've made a bunch of these. I've even made these for my friends for Christmas and put their pets in there, and they always love them. I usually do them with a white color, but you can do them in any color you want. These were with brown, just because I think it made more sense to do brown this time. As something a little more neutral. But definitely a way to customize too, and I think it's fun because someone I made a bunch for, they've had a lot of animals, so it was nice for them to kind of have almost like a memorial tree for all of their pets that as they go along, and just have all of their animals included every year on their tree. So if you're into stuff like that, this is a great way to have little memorials for your pets. Got these snowflake ones. There's a small one and a big one. And I kind of call these a more basic one because I have one that's a little more decorative, but this is a more basic is what I like to call it. And this pattern credit goes to Flower Girl Cottage. I can't remember a whole lot about this one, but I think it's a fairly easy, it looks a lot, the thing about crochet, especially when it gets to stuff that looks more detailed like this, is it looks a lot more intimidating when it's really just the stitch techniques. So it reminds me a lot of a granny square. So if you guys have ever done any granny squares, it's very similar to the concept of a granny square, just with a few more little points and stuff like that. So, and you got like some chaining right here. So don't let this make you scared and think, oh, I can't do something like that because it looks too complicated or too many things are going on. It's more looks than anything. It's more of your techniques and more of your stitching. So don't let that scare you, because you really just have a bunch of stitches here and then you just work off of in the gaps. So I think you guys will be able to do it even if you're a beginner. As long as you know how to do your stitches, you'll be able to do this. And there's even a small one. It's a little more basic, I would say, for sure, compared to this one that's a little bigger. But definitely give them a try. Next up, we have what I call my more decorative snowflakes. Whereas the other ones I said more basic, these are more decorative. These are a little more on the complex side, especially for those newer crocheters. There's some techniques that might be too difficult for you to do this one, especially since I haven't covered it on my channel. But the pattern credit for these snowflakes goes to Rianta Sage. I hope I said that right. If not, her pattern will be in the description. But for these, you will be doing a front and back post working. So I hope I can do a tutorial for you guys, because I know you guys probably want to try and make these. So I'll try to have a tutorial on front post and back post so you guys can learn how to do that technique for this and even for other projects, because it does come up with other things. But I thought these turned out really pretty, just because they look like stars and they look like snowflakes, and you can do them in different colors, and that's always really fun. Next up I have is I call it Gingerbread House pattern. This one is also by Yarnspirations. So it'll be kind of like the other pattern I mentioned. You'll go to the link and it'll look like you're trying to buy stuff, but it's just them having the yarn and all that. But it has a free download for the pattern. And this one can be a little more on the complicated side, as well as it comes to doing maybe this. And this is just doing French knots. So if you're not familiar with that, don't worry, because I found that in the pattern, the picture on how to do the French knots was actually super helpful for me, because I've never made French knots until this. So I felt like the pattern actually was really good at explaining how to do that. And everything else, you just make this piece on the top, so it's all one solid thing, and then you'll do an outline. And then you do a whole bottom, and then you'll do the outline. The heart I actually changed. This is not... The original heart actually looks like... I have all my little ends on here, but it looks more like this. And I did do that the first time I made this pattern. But when I was making it this time around, I have made better. And so this is the one I did. And I like it a lot better. So I can put that in the in the description down below with this pattern link on what I did to actually do the heart. Because I just didn't feel like it looked quite as nice, personally. Like, it does look like a heart, but I don't feel like it looks quite as sharp. So I'll have that down there. I also, as a little cheat sheet, because once you're done doing all your different colors and doing this whole thing, you'll have a bunch of ends. And the last thing I like to do is have to weave any of that all in, especially with something with so much of it and trying to hide it. It's too much. I just have some felt. I hot glued it. It looks nicer. It actually makes it sturdier too. So that's what I do for this. So that's my little tip with that. And I did a whole bunch here because I'm going to be having this as a set. I think it's really cute because it goes with my gingerbread stuff I like. It is a bit time consuming, but I think it's worth it in the end. And you can choose what all different colors. I did mine all about the same, but you can choose what different colors you want, or you can have maybe only 2 colors. I just did a bunch of different ones because I think it looks really gingerbread festive when you do it that way. And this one's another paw print one, but it's a little different. When I was making these, it kept making me think of Blue's Clues. So you could, if you really wanted to do a Blue's Clues theme, totally just do a darker blue and a lighter blue, and you could do Blue's Clues. But this pattern credit goes to Mary J. Handmade, and she has a YouTube tutorial for this, but she doesn't do this part and this part. She does the actual paw part in the video. In her videos, she'll actually link to her blog to do this part and this part. It's not that complicated. So as long as you can read a pattern, like this part's not that complicated to follow, whereas this is a little more like the other one where you need a little bit more help with knowing how to do all this part. She does have a very thick accent in the video, so if you do have a hard time with that, she does put in her video for parts of it the pattern on following along. I do recommend though, if you're going to be following hers, to just kind of slowly watch as you go, because I had to watch it a few times myself to understand what to do. So just take your time and rewatch the video a couple times, but overall it's a fairly good tutorial. You just have to kind of pay attention to some little parts of it, but it was overall easy. So just to keep that in mind. And the stitches you'll want to know for this is you'll be doing single crochet, half double crochet, and treble. So there'll be a part where you'll have to do a treble crochet, I think right along here. But you don't have to do a whole lot, and again in here you'll do a little bit just to get your shaping and stuff like that. So if you're wanting to do this, make sure you know how to do the treble crochet for sure. Next up I have these penguins, which I thought turned out really cute. I don't feel like mine turned out at all the way the pattern picture looked, which sometimes does seem to happen, but these still look okay. I think they look cute either way. But this pattern credit goes to Julian at Spin a Yarn Crochet. This is another one of those where you'll follow the pattern and you do two different panels. This one will have a little color changing. So if you're wanting to do just a little bit practicing with color changing, it's just this little bit right here. And then this part is all solid. And I believe when you work it around, you will have to do a little bit of color changing when you're attaching as well. And then these are just made separately and then sewn on. So they did turn out cute, I think. Alright, that was all the free patterns. So going forward, these will be ones you'll have to purchase, as in you'll have to purchase the book, because these are books that I got patterns from. To start off is Amigurume Eats by Allison Hoffman. So I took some of the food ones and turned them into ornaments, so that's why you would have to purchase the whole book. But she has a lot of cute different things that you can do, and I'm going to go into that here in a minute. So I'll have the book affiliated link down below. So in Allison's book, she does have a cinnamon roll pattern, and so I just took that and turned it into an ornament. So just following it, and I hot glued again. I hot glued it because I've tried it, and like I've said with all the other things, is when I'm trying to sew and try to get it all through these different layers, I find that it'll just like tug it and it just looks weird, or force it a certain way. So I just hot glue them. And then I just, before I completely close off, because I roll it up, I try and make sure to put my little, like I'll cut a piece of yarn, I'll figure out how long I want it to be, and I'll cut and then stick it in as I'm rolling it here, and then make sure I get it on this other side. And then I also hot glue on the swirl last. But I think these turned out so cute. And I think they look pretty realistic, personally. It makes me hungry every time I make these. Fun little guys. So if you're doing like food-themed Christmas tree, these ones going forward are going to be pretty fun for you to want to look into. She also has an avocado pattern. So I did like a little couple here. I think my little pit was a little big somehow. I know it might have been my yarn, because sometimes my yarn is really thick. Even though it's an acrylic, sometimes it still comes up on the more thicker end, so it doesn't quite, adjust. I've had to find that with any of these books I'm going to be talking about, I've had to kind of modify with my hook sizes and stuff to kind of make things work better for what I'm doing, because like clearly these two do not match up like a typical avocado would. So there's that, but I still think just on a Christmas tree, these would look super cute, especially if you're wanting to do like a best friend thing or a couple thing. That could be really fun, where it's like his and hers, One for one for the other. Definitely really cute. She also has a chocolate chip cookie pattern. And I believe she has one. I did the whole ones, but she, I think, has one that it kind of looks like it got bit out of if you want to do one like that. I like to stick with the more whole ones for this specifically, just because if you want to do a cookie theme or something, have them all over. So I like that one a lot. That pattern's a fun one to do. And you're just working two separate pieces worked in the round, and then you just crochet them together. So pretty easy pattern. This is a pretty easy book to follow, and she shows a lot of really good pictures as well in her descriptions of how to do things. There's also an egg pattern, so I just added little eyes on there. So you can make a whole breakfast theme if you wanted. You could go the distance with what you want to do with your trees. Really liked how this one turned out. This was also in her book, where it's a chocolate bar. Like I said, I just turned it into an ornament. So I had some felt that you're going to have to cut out if you want it to say chocolate kind of on it. Or you could not have the letters. You could do whatever letters you wanted. You could even spell somebody else's name out or whatever. You can have a lot of fun with that. But this one looks pretty fun, I think, for a chocolate bar. Kind of has a little part of the wrapper there. But not too difficult. You do some color changing, but it's not like the typical color changing where you're having to switch a whole lot. You're kind of going from one color to another color to another color. So that color changing is pretty basic. So you can kind of see where my color changing was right there. So that's a good way if you want to practice some color changing. That's a little not... I don't find this very complicated, as like the peppermint one might be a little complicated because you're switching back and forth and that could be kind of tricky. But this one's pretty, you work quite a few rows before you do your color change. And I got my ice cream cones, also from Allison's book. These are fun. These are on the bigger side of the ornaments, though, so if you're not wanting very big ornaments, I mean, these are kind of like the snowmen. They're just about the size of my hand. Snowman one were definitely bigger, but I found these really fun. I believe in her pattern, I think she had them maybe with like some lines if you wanted to add some grooves onto the cones to make them look more realistic. I think I just tried not to because I just wanted them to just look like ice cream cones. I didn't want to do a whole lot of detail. I was going more simple with this. You definitely can see that you'll be working through only one because you got the line there. So I can't remember if it's a front or back, but you will be doing that for here and then up here. And probably up here too. I can't remember. But very fun if you love ice cream like me and want to have ice cream cones. And you do whatever colors too. Whatever your favorite flavors are and different yarn colors. And then she also had a pizza one. So this is the one I ended up doing, and you do multiple layers. I'm pretty sure I hot glued these on just because, like I said, I don't like the way it looks when I sew them on. So you do have the crust that you make, and then you do the red, and then the cheese, and then there's specific patterns she has for the pepperoni slices, and then I just hot glued all those on top of each other to make them look like that. And then you add your little string. So you could do probably all sorts of different toppings if you wanted. I think she even had a few recommendations of toppings in her book. And then the last book I have for patterns is, I hope you guys can see that without the glare. It's Crochet Cafe by Lauren Epsey. So as you can tell from the cover, I'll make sure I'm not getting the glare for you guys. There we go. So on the cover, I'm sure you can see all the different food things that you could do if you really wanted to do a food-themed tree and all that. I only have one that I specifically did, and that was her bacon ornament, or I made an ornament, but her bacon pattern. And this one is just you make two pieces again, and then you sew them together. She also has a pizza one in hers that if you're only going to get one of the books, you could get she has a lot of very similar things in her pattern for her patterns. So like here's her pizza patterns that she's got going on here. So she's got toppings on hers. I'll have to see if Allison had different ones on hers as well. She does have, looks like, you know, you can do the mozzarella cheese and then maybe basil and pepperoni. And then there's even patterns online that have different toppings as well. But yeah, this is our bacon one. I hope you guys enjoyed looking at all the different patterns and possibilities that you could do for your Christmas ornaments. And I hope you check out all the different patterns and check out the links for the books, because those are great for any occasion all year round. If you're wanting to make foods and things like that, definitely check out those affiliated links and maybe purchasing a book. If you purchase from the link, that I will make a small commission from that purchase, and that just helps me with my YouTube channel and growing on YouTube and helping me provide the things that I need for my videos. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that little bell icon next to it, because if you do, then you will know of every time I post a video. And with the holidays coming around, I have all sorts of content that I'm hoping to have posted for you guys to help with your crafts and hopefully crochet tutorials as well. We'll see how the timeline goes. But I am hoping to have lots of things for you guys coming up here to keep you busy during the holidays. So thanks all for all your support, for those that are following me and for liking my video. Until next time, guys. Bye.